interesting thing about human condition when you're just talking about behaviours. We are genetically built for sustaining ourselves on an assumption that every resource is scarce. So whenever human beings come across the ability to grab a resource, it grows more than it needs. It was never genetically sure that it was ever going to get a chance to get any more afterwards. So if two woolly mammoths came into the village, you killed both of them. And the fact you couldn't eat them all at one go didn't matter. You killed them because another one might not come. And you must, when you think about our sustainability issues, that's probably our fundamental behavioural fault, that we will consume whatever we can and drop the next bit just in case it doesn't come. But what I thought I'd do for today is just turn this completely on its head and say, how do you do this when nobody thinks you should? And how do you do it when you haven't got any money? So it's branded around sustainability on the budget. And it's all about taking a cultural approach to your organisation and the issues, about how you embed it in your business processes, in your community, and how you do that in your engagement strategies with community and business. So that's right, working in context. It's interesting, depending on who's doing the measurement, it's 20 to 25 miles southwest of London. 92,400 population, quite small. But 60% of our area is metropolitan green belt, it's protected countryside. So our population lives in a fairly tight suburban area. Well connected by road and rail, so we've got 15 trains an hour into central London, so you don't have to worry about a train time, you just walk to it like going to a bus stop. Actually, it's more reliable than the bus stop. Our policies are generally, in European terms, social democratic. They're pretty much, they're not right-wing, they're not left-wing, they're pretty much in the middle. And what we've tried to do in talking about sustainability is make it very simple. Why would you spend 4 units of resource on something if you need only spend 1 to achieve the same outcome? So just think about it. Would you go and buy something for $4 that did exactly the same thing for $1? So if you just take that behaviour into the whole culture, we still have people in the UK that do not believe climate change exists. And if it does exist, it's got nothing to do with mankind. And the science community has a small percentage of those. They'll always get the airtime. I still have people who come from an oil exploration background that don't accept that it's the cause of their industry that this is happening. I don't argue with them. There's no point. There's no point. We had to wait until, was it 1968, when we got the Apollo missions seeing the Earth picture, to get the flat earthers eventually to give up on the fact that the Earth was flat. Now they've now taken the view that climate change doesn't exist as being their new mantra. You just have to ignore them. You have to focus on the things that most people do understand, which is resource utilisation. How do you use resources more efficiently? How do you, in what you achieve today, manage to do it with less use of resource? And even if you're wrong, so if you're being challenged within your departments, with colleagues, when you're trying to get the budget manager to have a conversation with you, this stuff saves money. It saves money big time and long term. And even if they don't believe that climate change is an issue to address, what they should at least understand is if we're using 1/4 of the oil resources that we currently do to achieve something, that means we've got it for 4 times as long. We've got a better chance to continue, sustain our businesses. So you don't have to go down to fundamental argument head to head, because they will not be convinced. You will not win. They believe it's not true. So that's it. Yeah? Don't try. Switch your behaviour and your argument to one of efficient use of resources. And sustainability is striking a balance between what you need to achieve and the sustainable use of resources means that resources are either being replenished or being depleted at a slow enough rate that technology in thousands of years' time will recreate something. Our arguments in our own business are predicated by an assumption that the consumption levels we have now are totally unsustainable. But trying to tell everybody in our business or in our community that they can't have a 21st century lifestyle isn't deliverable. You can't do that. I had a political leader once that said, Ray, how could we avoid waste? I said, make sure all your people are poor, but you won't get elected. And I think you can't go down that path, so you have to find a different path to go down. And the mantra or the goal should be, everybody should have a 21st century lifestyle, but only use one planet's worth of resources. Now the bad news for you is you are well in excess of 4 planets worth of resources each to live your current lifestyle, so you are spending $4 a year for every dollar's worth of value you buy. UK is slightly better, it's only just about 3.5, and the European average is around 3, so we're United Arab Emirates is 7, but if you've seen any of their rather interesting ski slopes in 60-degree temperatures, you'd understand why. But if we've got the innovation and technology to be able to build ski slopes in the desert, why can't we use that enterprise to actually turn around and say, well, actually, how do we achieve 21st century living standards for everybody, but only use one planet's worth of resources? So that's the argument. So if you're being faced with things, think about resource utilization in your arguments, and this is what our embedding of this in our corporate business is. We have a thing called, imaginatively called EWOC, electronic working. It's our internal kind of intranet for our business. And all of our business processes are run through that, and there's a whole section in that on sustainability. And through that, there are themes of sustainability that all officers are required to use to get any decision of our council. So equality impact assessments and sustainability impact assessments are required for every budget decision, every project release, every service plan, and you do not get a resource allocation unless you've done it. Now, at the moment, we haven't built too many penalties into that, because first of all, you've got to get people behaving it, and then you can start pricing it. And we were just about to start pricing harm when, unfortunately, there was a necessary investment into our banking sector that has changed the focus within the UK a little bit on budget deficits rather than pricing. So our politicians said, well, can we just back off publishing how bad we are on those things for the time being? And so we're doing those in private. But they will appear later. So every service plan says, well, this is your financial harm to the environment, to resources. The unsustainability bit will come later. This is simple stuff. So if you're looking for a light bulb moment, you actually have it. You already know what to do. The idea is to embrace your people and get them engaged in doing it. So we'll go through, and then we'll have these type of assessment forms. Have I got one of those up next time? Yeah. So I'll hand this round. So what they're asked to do very simple little things. Is what they're doing having a positive impact, a negative impact, or none? And to put some commentary about what they think that impact has on those particular issues. Keep it really simple. And what happens is then your people start, will start to actually, there's actually a website as well. And by going down through each of those, you were all talking about, well, we've got this project on this because we've got a grant fund for that. We've got this project on that because we've got a stimulus fund for that. That's not sustainable. No. Okay? Useful catalyst, useful for engagement, hive some of the money off. Okay? Oh, that's on cameras now. Look at a positive return for your investment by putting something into helping you take some of the processes and learning from what you're doing and embed that in your business culture. If you don't embed it in your business culture, the incentive, the stimulus package will go, leave the building, and then somebody will say, oh, well, that was a waste of my tax dollars, or somebody else will say, well, that's brilliant, but you won't have actually changed the behaviour of your organisation. So see if you can build that in. This process that we do then leads to other examples of we require people to report, and I'm going to give you some that are easier to read in a minute, because you can download these from our website. But we'll take, and I've got to put my glasses on because I can't read them without either. If we take that first one, total number of bicycle allowances claimed. So we give our staff an incentive to cycle for work and to work. So we give them a payment to come by bicycle rather than by car or by public transport. Unfortunately, it was very enthusiastic. Then from 2005, this is an old one that I've run off, but it went down. So, and then we give ourselves like a, oh, that's a thumbs down. The trend's not going quite as we want. I tried to find some that didn't look all upwards, all right? So this was one that did that. Others, car park season ticket. We're entitled to a car park season ticket out of our total workforce. So what percentage of the workforce has a parking permit right? Yeah. So I think currently we're around about 35%. So the idea is to reduce the percentage of people who can park for work.
So I might ask, are you going to talk later about how you fund these incentives?
Existing budgets.
Okay.
Yes, certainly. Right, cycle allowance. We paid, if you travel for business, you get paid. Yeah? You get a mileage allowance. I don't know how, we assume it's similar here. Yeah. All we did was you just top sliced a bit of that budget, so that's for bicycle allowances. So reduce the number of people that can travel now, because you haven't got enough budget. But they can travel wherever they like by bicycle and they get this much. Yeah? Right? So the bicycle payment, they weren't paying anything on fuel, they were riding their bike. We're 10 miles by 5 miles is our borough, so they can ride to an appointment rather than... So I'm not saying these things are the right things for you, all right? I'm just saying you have to do these relative to your business. We were keen on promoting cycling and walking. We're fairly 91,000 people live within. We have a canal corridor running through our borough. We've just invested nearly £3 million on upgrading that to a pedestrian cycle through fare for the town, all off highway, and then connecting that with settlements. 91,000 of our people live within 1 kilometre of that road, of that cycle road. So we're just in the process of finding money off new building permits. The builder has to give us a contribution to improve infrastructure. So instead of putting it on roads or car parks, we put it on cycleways and walkways where parents can let their children go without being in conflict with the car. So it's, you make choices about existing budgets. And that's what I just want to focus on here. Big projects, you need new budgets, but some of these behavioural things you can embed in your existing businesses. So we do these type of things. Another report example, you'll love this one, Annabelle. Good job you didn't do the... see what happened to our CO2 emissions? We were achieving up around 80%, as I reported. Then I said, God, listen, we haven't got all of our activities in that. Go and include everything. Go and troll for everything, and include the third-party suppliers that run services for it. Unfortunately, that didn't look so good. So we didn't spend quite so much time shouting about that. And we're kind of just in the process of getting back up, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So all of a sudden, when you looked at the things, and you're right, gentlemen, I think you said about the Pareto principle. We concentrated on the 80% of our structures that had the biggest bills and we'd save the most money. They turned out not to be the biggest CO2 losses, because we had other things that just had relatively low budgets, but were disastrous in CO2 terms. We didn't include any of those. We are now doing so and just working out that we've got to go back and have a major program to them.